All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Of course, I see that the Rumble Rants is working, but that doesn't mean that the video necessarily will. By the way, very close to 122,000 subscribers now on Rumble. I thank all of you who watch me there. You can always make sure to share out the link when I do live streams or the daily videos. Let's make sure that people are able to watch me. Yes, but I don't want to watch myself. That's boring. I can already hear myself anyway, and that's enough, trust me, for one day. Anyway, we start off with big news. I'm just going to launch right into that. Nancy Pelosi has broken the glass ceiling, or in her case, the ass ceiling. She is now the first Speaker of the House to lose the gavel twice. Yes, which is good, I think. She should retire. So should McConnell, although the Republicans still decided for some reason that he was competent to run the GOP in the Senate, which shows that there will be problems going forward over the next couple of years as far as making sure that populistic candidates have a chance. There will be honking going on, and it'll come mainly from the GOP. Just to be clear, and it won't come from ballot machines. Well, sometimes. It'll come mainly from Mitch McConnell. Kevin McCarthy is now likely to be the Speaker of the House. I don't know if there's anyone else that's opposing him, really, although I think that's a good idea. But the GOP has now, with the re-election of Mike Garcia, the Republicans have taken over the House of Representatives. They had enough gains to do that. Now, I think there are still 7 or 8 outstanding races, including Boebert with Colorado 3. It's iffy there, and it's likely to go to automatic recount regardless. So it's going to be a lengthy process. You've got several Californian races. I think the one with Garcia actually was one of them that are still outstanding. I think the Republicans will have the House by 4 or 5 seats in the end. That's definitely not a red wave, but it's progress. I mean, it's better than the alternative because at the very least, you have to have a handful of Republicans willing to negotiate on budgetary deals. That's the main advantage. Some of them will. Some of those House Republicans are neoconservatives. And that's really, that's the one dark lining on the silver cloud, which is that you don't really have an ironclad MAGA House of Representatives. They will work at the end of the day with the Dems. I mean, negotiation should happen. That's not the problem. The problem is that many of them will negotiate from the neocon position. While I would like them to simply lock out the Biden economy entirely, that will not happen. This will, in my mind, piss off GOP MAGA voters. This will lead to bad things unless they nominate Trump, actually. So we'll see exactly what happens with that. I'm just gloating over the fact that Nancy Pelosi will no longer be the Speaker of the House. By the way, is Rumble Rant still working? For those of you watching on Rumble, there's over 300 people watching right now live, and Jesus Christ, rising at an astronomical pace, actually. I see you can see it in real time now, actually, the number of people, while we're nearly real time, the number of people watching. But I only see a couple in the chat. Let me refresh it and see what happens. Okay, yeah, now I can see the chats lining up. And I think there was a little bit of a gremlin in the system there for a moment. Colonel Quayle, Trump, low energy speech, low energy person. His speech was measured, and it was exactly what he needed to pull off. He could have come around and prowled up on stage when he decided to announce the other day that he's running. He could have prowled around and launched a bunch of insults and rambled about Mitch McConnell, and it would have been red meat to a handful of people in the GOP that form a very hardened MAGA core. It would not have been good for independent voters, simple political partisans, and many other groups of people. Trump has to be more conciliatory going forward, or he can't take the Democrats' own ammo, which is their fixation on 2020, and use it against them. If he's smart, what he'll do is he'll sloganeer it and say something to the effect of, "I'm looking to the future. They're still stuck on the past," while claiming that I'm the one stuck on the past. I'm running in 2024 to be president. So, 2020 was a while ago. He's capable of completely disarming them of probably their greatest attack line against Trump, which is Trump, the evil insurrectionist stuck in the past and doesn't have a platform. He just keeps talking about the election being stolen and stuff like that. Not a bad account. Republicans lost. There's no point to voting. Weep. Yes, I see a lot of black pilling along those lines. Not a bad account. Why aren't MAGA extremists classified terrorists? I think in some states they tried that, actually. I think. Keyless Rex 87A Sticks, can you give my brother Ryan a shout out in New York City? Also, a couple quick white pills about Trump running again. He thinks DeSantis is the best option. Clank, clank. Shout out to Ryan. Cool dude, I'm sure. Hopefully you get the good pizza. You're in New York, so presumably, here's what I would say. DeSantis has a shot. I will be analyzing the first post-midterm poll by Politico, actually, with regards to the Republican primaries. It's possible. If he were nominated and there were no shenanigans involved, I would support DeSantis. He's done a good job as Florida governor. He is unlikely to run. That's number one. And number two, he has several traits about him that Trump does not have. Number one, he's never been the president. Trump has a technical incumbency. That gives him an ingrained advantage. Number two, his support base, his hardened support, is mainly Floridians. Florida is no longer a competitive state. Florida went deep, deep red in the last election. And Trump did, by the way, contribute to that. Trump has the ingrained advantage of having a very large, hardened core fan base, something that DeSantis does not have. He hasn't had long enough to establish it. That's what I would say about that. Grevin Share, Nancy thought outing her husband and his boy toy would help her chances. How hilarious. Yep, they managed to lose the house. How sad. By the way, if I seem a little bit low energy today, I had to spend about an hour and a half puttering around in the garden, trimming grape and ivy vines earlier. So, yeah, I got my work in for the day. And it's raining and chilly. Hidden Arch on Rumble. Clank. Now, next news story. This is a good one. It was mentioned to me yesterday. People were sending me this link. Tulsi Gabbard in question here because she has, of course, switched to the Republican Party now. And I said at the time that the disqualifying factor in my mind for her for political office, whatever she's going to choose to do next. And she's I think barely 40, so she's got some time on her hands to decide what trajectory she wants. The big disqualifier for me was she was an anti-gunner. She supported years ago assault rifle ban and all this bullshit. And I said, I can't get behind someone who says, well, I've had a change of heart. I'm becoming a Republican now. I want lower taxes, but retains the anti-gunnery. Then she put out an hour-long goddamn podcast episode, and I'm glad that people showed this to me, where she doesn't do the politician thing. Politician thing would be she mentions it in passing and says, well, I've had a change of heart on guns. That's not what she did here. She told the whole goddamn story about why she had a change of heart on guns. That, to me, is a positive thing. It doesn't quite seal the deal for me potentially supporting like a Tulsi Gabbard gubernatorial run in the future or something. It doesn't quite make it that far, but it certainly gets it towards that goal. I want to see more action as opposed to just words because she is still a politician, of course. But the words, the way that they were delivered, sounded considerably more proper and honest than you would normally get from someone within politics. It was more detailed. It was more nuanced than just, hey, I've decided, I've changed my mind. Like pulling a Bill Weld and saying, well, I've changed my mind. I'm never supporting the GOP again. And then running for a GOP presidential candidacy, actually only a few years later. So I think Tulsi Gabbard is halfway there to earning my potential vote or support in the future with her turnaround on guns. And by the way, to people who think that she's WEF, the fact that a person attends a WEF-sponsored get-together does not mean that they're a member or that they actually have anything in common with them. You'll notice that Donald Trump spoke at the WEF convention in 2017, I think, or something. And people briefly attacked him for this, actually, prior to, about a year ago. They were talking about, Donald Trump's WEF. Here he is shaking hands with Klaus Schwab. Of course, the nuance being lost, he had actually showed up there and fucking trolled them. He showed up and he rambled for an hour about how evil globalism was. I'm sure Klaus Schwab was very, very happy about that. He basically made it a MAGA speech at Klaus Schwab's expense. The fact that he was there does not make him a globalist. Same is true of Tulsi and some of these others. Not a bad account. Puerto Rican Statehood Admission Act now, HR 4901. I support Puerto Rican statehood. I find it funny when people talk about demographics as the reason that they don't want that. You do realize that they're already Americans, correct? It's an American territory. They've already got the ability to go anywhere in the United States, get a passport, do whatever the fuck they want. Why the fuck are we taking a piece of land with so much prime real estate, so much prime coast? It's just waiting for investors that refuse to invest because of the territorial issue. Puerto Rico would probably become one of the most wealthy states. Jack's regret. What would Trump have to lose? They are going to crucify him regardless. He was very calm. Can that be seen as weakness? No, it's because he wants to win. And if he prowls around on stage immediately after the midterms and starts flinging insults and stuff like that, he won't win. Oh, you'll get some good zingers and shit from Trump. Trust me, there will be a primary battle of some sort, whether DeSantis, the only other viable candidate, potentially gets in or not. Pompeo might get in. Pence, it looks like he might sit it out. You might get a Liz Cheney run. There'll be some fireworks and insults and typical Trumpisms. But you're going to also see, I think, a more presidential Trump overall, certainly in debate format, potentially. He needs to do that. Hopium Gardener. So, like, if Biden does manage to honk the 24 election, what in heck do we do? Deal with the fact that the Republic is dead, I suppose. Texas P12. I think Myra Flores as VP would be great. That you could do worse. I'm a 2 taco bowls type of guy, though. I don't know. Myra Flores would be okay. She's fairly well spoken. She's young, certainly. That helps. I think there are more qualified potential VPs. It's likely to be a female, by the way. Carrie Lake, I think, is at the top of the list. The Patriot Chiro. I know you were curious about Fetterman's lump on his neck. It's called a lipoma, which is a fatty cyst, very common along the spine. Benign. He looks like Gru from Despicable Me. You should probably have surgery to have that removed. Not a bad account. Had Trump learned to hire loyal people, not enemies? I think that he may have learned his lesson at this point. We'll see who he surrounds himself with. Ozzy's robots. Can honked candidates get a case to SCOTUS now while the temperature is low, so there could be a definitive ruling preventing honking once and for all? As for Tulsi, politicians lie all the time. Clank. Yeah, the thing is, when she was a Democrat, I mean, we could always chalk it up to her playing it up to her base by being weak on guns because she was a Democrat at the time. She could have been lying to the Democrats. I'm not actually claiming that, but it's possible. I think that it is a genuine turnaround, but we need to see action to flesh out the words. Lifecock. I went to Vermont for the first time ever last weekend. It's stick season. Vermont's pretty cool, other than its politics. Forge and Anvil on Rumble. I'll test the rants. Can you shout out my new podcast, Forge and Anvil? This is my entire marketing budget. Thanks for your commentary. Okay, if you are on Rumble, you can go and see Forge and Anvil, who has a show. By the way, again, the differential between YouTube and Rumble as far as audience has apparently permanently changed. I've got almost 12,000 people are watching on Rumble. There's about 2,000 on YouTube. It used to be a 2-to-1. The ratio is less than that now. Great. Toasty, Trump said he would push for Congress limits. Yes, please. Lapse of apathy. Do you think that DeSantis is a knowing plant for the establishment to take down Trump? No, I do not believe that DeSantis is in on the ploy. I think that the unipartyists wish that he would run because they think that he can possibly defeat Trump. If they can't defeat Trump in the primaries, it's going to be a little bit conspicuous when Mitch the Bitch McConnell and others refuse to back their own candidate, now won't it? I think that they're afraid he would win anyway because a bunch of independent voters would realize what a fucking game was going on. And then the Republicans worry about being in complete disarray because the person they just tried to stop happens to be the president of the United States. Next news story. Yeah, this is hilarious. Mike Pence is doing like complete damage control right now. With new book, Pence wrongly casts himself as courageous during the January 6th insurrection. Here's the problem with Mike Pence. He has thrown Trump under the bus, but he refuses to fully throw him under the bus. For instance, he just told the J6 committee to fuck themselves. That's seen as a pro-Trump move. He's casting himself as courageous. He doesn't seem to quite get it, that the liberals are not going to give you credit for insulting Donald Trump. You are a Republican. You are evangelical, some more so than Trump. You're very anti-abortion. You seem to have a problem with gay people. You're not going to get any brownie points. The only time that they let you go is when Trump happens to be speaking. You are still to them a far-right extremist. You were literally the VP of the dude that they think staged a coup. He thought that trotting out this book, I guess, would repair his reputation. You've lost MAGA. You can't gain liberals. Where's your base? You pull it 2 or 3 points usually in a matchup against Donald Trump. Even in a goddamn 1v1, he would be completely lambasted. He doesn't have any support. I think it's just to sell book sales myself. Cold Warrior, Tulsi is very alluring. Her stance on foreign wars is outstanding, but the last time I trusted a Democrat, it was Hubert Humphrey. She is still not trustworthy on the Second Amendment. Again, we'll wait to see action following her words, but the words do lay the foundation for that. Grandpa Nurgle, I heard you can honk Fetterman's lump like a bike horn. JWT 6577, whether he's in on it or not, DeSantis reeks of Romney. I don't think so. I think he's better than Romney. I mean, I know that's low-hanging fruit. That's a pretty low hurdle right there, but I wouldn't compare him to Romney. Maybe closer to a Cornine if you wanted to compare him to a neocon. New Mastixo, we just joined the United Sticks of America. Zach Carr, Trump has to start out calling McConnell now. To start outing McConnell now. He can wait a little while for that. Wait until after Herschel Walker potentially clinches in the Senate. Don't do anything before that would be my advice. He's slow walking it. Some people expected before the midterms he would announce. Other people on midterm eve or something. Correctly, I predicted that he would wait until a reasonable amount after that. It'd be close after the midterms, but he'd give a few days for people to just celebrate their victories. Andrus Sobel, hey man, people forget who think Trump will lose is that he got 70 million honest votes last time. Do you think Trump can match that in 2024? I think he would get more than that. I think there will be a strong anti-Bidenomics vote. Next news story. Yeah, I'm just going to read this verbatim. It's from NPR. Breaking, Donald Trump, who tried to overthrow the results of the 2020 presidential election and inspired a deadly riot at the Capitol in a desperate attempt to keep himself in power, has filed to run for president again in 2024. I'd like to point out that NPR is partially taxpayer funded, although not predominantly. I'm wondering why a penny of taxpayer money is going to a group that on day one of the presidential candidacy having been announced has already made a fairly clear preference with regards to it not liking the candidate. That's number one. Number two, talk about hyperbole. Again, Donald Trump has not been charged with any crime or any wrongdoing with regards to J6, possibly because he did nothing wrong. His speech did not incite a riot. He did not attempt to overthrow the government. That's horseshit. It's a mythology. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. And they're getting, they get ratioed and shit in the comments by basically everyone. It's very, very funny, too. You love to see it. Mungy, for people saying Trump can't win, not that he won't, is it fair to tell them that they are listening to the very establishment they claim to hate? Yes, it's very fair and proper. Apache, do you think Tulsi would say yes to being Trump's VP? Would help get more independent leftists on, and she checks most of the boxes for it. Again, I would not like that unless she follows through her words with more actions on guns. With most other issues, I have no problem with her. The fact that she's presumably close to the short list for possible VPs under Trump is why the Democrats have crucified her, by the way, so much, calling her a Russian asset. They've done this to Rand Paul for the same point. They're worried about Rand Paul and they're worried about Tulsi. You'll note that they don't call DeSantis a Russian asset. I would just point that out. Not a bad account. I miss Ross Perot. His economics were promising. Yeah, he had some good ideas. Debbie Donovan, sticks, keep clanking. Right now I can't clank because my caffeine is in a can and I don't have a spoon. Well, I do, but, it's collectible and shit. It's from New Zealand. Kelly Kaku Kutin, speaker can be from pub sector. How about Newt Gingrich? That would be fucking hilarious, but I don't think it'll happen. Yeah, people have so many different choices. Like some people say DeSantis should be the running mate because, viability, he's got that support. I would point out that much of it's just in Florida, and that'll go red anyway. Some people, Larry Elder gets mentioned commonly. Tulsi Gabbard, Carrie Lake. I like Rand Paul best. I think that he's the most qualified overall, and I trust him. Like as far as you can trust a politician, I think Rand Paul ticks the boxes for. He's the sane man in the room. We'll see who he chooses, though, as running mate. It'll be interesting. Mbara, how many Republicans did Trump support and how many won? Several hundred, and over 80% of them won, to be clear. You have not heard that from CNN for a reason. The Grizzly, be glad it's raining over in the Netherlands and not snowing like it is here in Michigan. Whiteout conditions, lol. Yeah, I heard that there was going to be a massive-ass snowstorm in parts of the Great Lakes region. And it reminded me of that winter storm from back in the 70s. It was talked about in the Coming Ice Age episode of In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. And they were showing like snow drifts. They were like fucking 10 feet tall. It looked like glacial conditions. And they couldn't keep up. A bunch of people died. They were using snowmobiles to deliver medical aid, get people to the hospital and shit. I'm wondering if that's, how much snow are you expected to get? I heard some people said it would be multiple feet for this particular storm. Next news story, 1 foot of snow predicted. Oh, that's a lot, but it's not cataclysmic. Go to Vermont at some point. Fuck, I've seen 3 feet of snow fall in a 48-hour period. Next news story is actually, we're just going to talk briefly about this. This is from The Street. It's an MSM post. Understanding the FTX scandal that threatens Bitcoin and crypto. And it goes through and talks about how crypto bad, basically. You can't trust it. Everyone's losing all their money, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, proper reporting on it is, hey, FTX founder happened to be the second largest Democratic donor for several political cycles. Threatening to influence 2024. Of course, he's no longer capable of doing that, I suppose. By the way, to Carlos Danger, Vance won days ago. That race was called, I think, 4 days ago or something. Yes, JD Vance did win. That was one of Trump's picks, by the way, along with Bud against Beasley, actually. I can't remember the state, and numerous others. By the way, Zeldin came within 5 points, just to be clear. As far as the FTX scandal goes, you will notice if you look at all of the legacy media coverage, none of them talk about the founders' political ties. None of them talk about the co-founders' political ties. There's a Clinton connection there. None of them talk about the Ukraine connection. It's all an attack on crypto. FTX folds, therefore crypto bad. Don't buy it. Don't use it. They're trying to take lemons and making it into lemonade without telling everybody that it's made with lemons, I suppose. Which is very, very funny. FTX was run by a lock solid Democrat who spent $40 million fucking dollars in this last election. Then conveniently, right after the midterms end, he flies to South America, having gone through bankruptcy proceedings. Daimos, always keep your Bitcoin on your own wallet, not your keys, not your coins. Exactly. Do not keep it on the exchange. You can use an exchange, but then move it off the exchange once you're done purchasing or whatever. Emperor Helix, I'm Puerto Rican and statehood is a mistake. We have no profitable export and it's extremely corrupt. Remember the Hurricane Maria aftermath and it's Dem run? Yes, that's true. But the corruption aspect can't really be probed directly by the government at any higher level because there's no statehood to be accountable. It's a territory. It's not a state. That causes some of the problems there because it's got a wonky political system. I think that your most profitable export would be tourism, actually. You could have various cottage industries there as well. It's a tropical climate. You could get more agriculture going. But right now, why would you invest in that? The average American investor is not going to invest in an area of the country that might no longer be part of the country at some indefinite point in the future. The colonial question still being on the table is one of the reasons why Puerto Rico has so many problems. It's the size of Connecticut, has about the same population, huge amount of oceanfront property. It's a great climate. There are a lot of people who would like to go there. Second homers would start gobbling up some chunks of the island. I care it'd be just like in Hawaii. Silky Johnson, Sticks, you ever think of getting a big gaudy bling that says Clank Yo or of Diamond Spoon? If anything would be worth it for the meme material. No, I don't really like gaudy things. Sigil Stone, 17 on Rumble. Race Bannon, I mean, Mike Pence needs to go back to helping Johnny Quest fight Lizard Man. Gnarly Ranger, so fucking glad we decisively booted Elaine Luria out of Virginia 2nd. Also, it's nice seeing the local elections flip red. Teachers' unions are seething right now. Yeah, the teachers' unions lost a lot of ballot initiatives and positions in this last election. By the way, another thing fronted by Trump's people. Sigil Stone 17, Trump should run Ralph Nader as his VP. Oh, God. Next news story, we've got Schumer here. This is just a quote from him. Schumer, we have a population that is not reproducing on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way you are going to have a great future is if we welcome immigrants. Get a path to citizenship for all 11 million illegal immigrants. Yeah, no, I wonder why he waited until a week after the midterms to say such a thing. That would have gone over so well, especially in like Myra Flores border county, border district rather, if you had said this a week ago. This is the displacement ideology. We should not grant citizenship to people who came to the country illegally, with the few notable exceptions. Genuine asylum seekers having a path to citizenship is fine. That process takes forever. Half these people disappear once they're over the border. There's no longer a remain in Mexico policy. You can't deport half of these people, with the exception of people legitimately fleeing from political persecution. So arguably, you should allow Venezuelans a path forward before people from like Mexico or something. Unless you're fleeing legitimate political persecution, or there's a familial tie, a genuine one, and that process should be lengthened, you shouldn't qualify. You shouldn't qualify for any form of visa. You shouldn't qualify for a work permit, or at least for a given period of time. I believe in showing mercy to people who are impoverished and have shitty conditions. I would note there are millions of Americans who fall under that category. My answer is rather different. My answer would be to encourage Americans to fuck more. Why don't you raise the child tax credit again like Donald Trump did? Why don't you make it lucrative to have a couple of extra kids so that people don't feel like it's going to drain all their resources away? Otherwise, yeah, you get a situation where people in the middle class don't generally have more than one kid if they have any. No shit, Schumer. You fucked up the economy. The economy's hemorrhaging money at the moment and people don't want to have kids. You're surprised at this? Yeah, the only people then the problem is that this isn't mercy to those illegals. They want to bring them in as slave labor. They're like, well, they were from a third world country, so they're willing to work 60 hours a week for minimum wage, unlike those decadent Americans. Chuck Schumer sees these people as the help. He wants them to be doing the lawn work and shit like that. This is the Democrats' idea of diversity and stuff like that. It's horse shit. The Grizzly. This snowstorm is 1 foot, but we've had winters where our average was 2 to 3 feet in an hour. 2014 was so bad I had to dig out my old Suburban out of a snowdrift, and that thing was taller than I am. Jesus. Fair Frozen 55, Puerto Rican valuable exports, beauty, culture, tourism, high-end heart failure, therapy machines, University of PR, Mayaguez, graduated engineers. Hismanai, happy clank. Happy clank to you too. Our daily happy clanking experience. So yeah, Schumer is all in on displacing huge proportions of the U.S. population in favor of slavery. What a wonderful guy, by the way. He loves BIPOC. He loves them a lot when they're serving him. Typical Democrat. Now I wanted to analyze this, and I'll compare it, by the way, to the prior poll right before the midterms. 2024 Republican presidential nomination polls. We're looking at Politico, and the average Trump is 25 points ahead. There has been a shift in the polling, at least according to Politico. I want a couple of more polls before I officially announce that, but let's just assume we'll go by their numbers. DeSantis has considerably grown his margin. He's now at 33 points in this poll. Again, that's margin of error applies by 3 or 4 points. So I don't know the exact number. We don't have an aggregate for post-midterm because we've only got one poll to go by. I would point something out here. It's very, very interesting. Donald Trump's numbers have basically not changed. They're virtually the same as they have been. If you compare it to prior political polls, it's the prior Politico poll pre-midterms showed him at 49, the new one at 47. So it's statistically unchanged. DeSantis rose from 24 to 33. That's a significant rise. Why? Because he gobbled up support from all the third wheel candidates. It looks like he robbed a bunch of support from people like Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, and Marco Rubio in order to gain that double-digit jump in his polling, or near double-digit jump in his polling. Doesn't touch Trump at all. Unfortunately for the DeSantis fans, if Trump has that kind of numerics behind him going into the primaries, there are two possibilities. Number one, a packed primary. Trump's numbers don't seem to budge no matter who gets in or who gets out. So it's not affecting him. You get a crowded field. Nobody can make up the difference. They all have to attack each other as well. Even if they join forces, it falls flat. They tried that, by the way, in 2016, you'll remember, with the idea that Kasich and Rubio and Cruz were going to pull together and share delegates and draw lots, I guess, to decide who would be the anti-Trump victor or something like that. It didn't work. It miserably failed, not in part because Kasich had a big ego and refused to go along with the plan, by the way. I think that Cruz and Rubio would have actually tied it off if they had tried it. They probably would have gotten a deal going. They still would have lost, but it would have been amusing to see what happened. Now, imagine the alternative. Trump is in, and the only other person running is DeSantis. Now, you may say, well, DeSantis probably gets all of those remaining votes. I think he would get Pence's votes. I don't know that Nikki Haley's votes would go to him. I don't know that the undecided voters would break for him. I can't see any reason why they would. The problem with stacking the endorsements is that it's going to be a bunch of neocons. If it's Neocon Inc.'s hand-chosen candidate in the primaries with DeSantis, if he runs, and I'm still skeptical that DeSantis does, he has insinuated that he would sit it out if Trump won. We'll see if he changes his mind for opportunistic purposes. I just don't think the numbers are there for him. Not leastwise because multiple states will probably close their primaries and just award their delegates to Trump as the technical incumbent. That will happen. By the way, that's a no-win situation for the GOP going forward if there's a primary battle at all. If you don't allow the primaries to go forward, so Trump doesn't have to campaign in many states anyway, he's already clinched it, people will scream about attacks on democracy. They're not letting the Republican voters decide. They're all in on Trump now. The game is rigged. It'd be funny because they'd be effectively claiming election interference in the Republican primary. That would go over very well. It'd be very interesting. The legacy media wouldn't crucify those disinfo claims, by the way, the same way they do others. If you do have the primary system, even though Trump probably wins anyway by a significant margin, then you've got debates and candidates beating up on one another, and Trump takes attrition going into the general election. It's a no-win scenario, regardless of which they do, if the Neocon Inc. sorts are capable of starting a primary with any vigor behind it at all. You need at least one candidate capable of breaking 20 in order to have that candidate there look viable enough to even bother with a debate. And Trump may, by the way, skip the debates anyway if they hold them. Anyway, he could choose DeSantis as his running mate, in which case nobody can stop them. Iggy the Incubus, thoughts on the Ukraine missile strike being a false flag by Zelensky? Him calling for NATO intervention after missiles hit from his country hit the nation was a bit too fast, in my honest opinion. I've got questions about that, yeah. I think although the intel might have been that it was a Russian missile, he could have been just fucking misled. He's not necessarily the wisest war leader, just to be clear. And then the final news story. By the way, I'm going to cut it quite short today because, again, I'm not playing at the top of my game and I want to get a little more rest. I was out there in I had to rip half the garden out, It was a big problem. Didn't want to. There was a miscommunication with regards to the plant that I needed to trim back and how much I needed to trim it. And then after I already got done, I realized, oh, shit, I just got rid of most of the grapevine and all of the ivy for absolutely no reason. Whoops. My bad. The Landlord Harassment Channel, comment on the Candace Cameron Buer situation. I don't know what that is. Anyway, last news story. Clinton-linked dark money group targeted Twitter advertisers amid Elon Musk's takeover. Yes, the Democrats are livid about the concept of free speech existing on any main tech site. They're also worried about new tech. Why do you think the SEC sued Odyssey? Why do you think that BitChute and Rumble constantly have attacks on them? Hit pieces and shit like that. Clinton's probably contributed money to that as well. I like how they call their group Onward Together. Accountable Tech spearheaded a letter to top Twitter advertisers as part of a larger pressure campaign demanding non-negotiable requirements for their business, saying that Musk's takeover will further toxify the social media giant and directly threaten public safety. Yes, mean tweets will cause democracy to die. And it's funny because they bring that up. You can read the article for yourself if you want to. They're warning that the democracy's frayed ends will be torn apart if you allow free speech on Twitter. I'm thinking to myself, you've got 4chan, that exists. There's no political censorship there of any meaningful kind. People can go there to talk about whatever the fuck they want, and that hasn't destroyed democracy. Yeah, there's plenty of mean memes there. There's Pepe and, alt-right things like that. I don't think it threatened democracy, though. It used to be the Bill O'Reillys of the world were the ones that were mad at it. They called it a far left hate machine and shit like that. The internet hate machine. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but then again, I remind myself, today's Democrats, the Clintons included in that, at least the neoliberal ones, they really do resemble like the Bush Republicans. They sound more and more like George W. by the day. By the way, wasn't W supposed to weigh in on Trump's candidacy the other day or something? Wasn't it he and Obama were both planning to do like rebuttals or something like that? Did he even do that? Did nobody pay attention because it's George W? Maybe it was so incoherent the legacy media decided to cover it up, cover his ass for him. Yeah, I like it when people say crypto is a scam. I'm still holding on to it. I've still got my crypto. Yeah, I may unload it at some point, or maybe I'll just keep it there. I like crypto. Crypto turns out similar to the 1990s weed IPO craze and had similar results. Well, crypto has crashed to all-time lows multiple times before, and it keeps coming back. So I'll remain skeptical of its untimely demise. Please, no more super chats, by the way. I'm going to cut this off in just a few minutes. Aussie's robots. GOP should simply be made to explain publicly why they are not supporting the guy that had 70 million votes. They're clearly failing their constituents. I don't mind if there is a primary system. Other people do have the right to run against Donald Trump. I'm just worried that it's going to turn into a shitfest where the party is going to overfund like some alternative candidate and do damage to their own likely inevitable nominee. It would be right up the alley of Mitch McConnell to make that mistake too. Michael Cricklow, DeSantis wants MAGA support and won't primary Trump. Exactly. If he wants a future in politics, it'd be a terrible idea to run against Trump. You should endorse Trump. You should come out and endorse Donald Trump's run immediately. Richard III. How about mean tweets, safer streets for a campaign slogan? That's a good one. I've seen that actually listed. I think he should just do Make America Great Again. I think he should keep with the same slogan he used before. Sigil Stone 17. Free speech on Twitter is a threat. What threat? The threat of what we'll do to you if you support free speech. Yeah, that's basically the Clintonian mafioso sort of thing. That's basically what they do. All right, everyone, I'm going to cut this off. My throat is a little bit hoarse. I think I was in the rain a little bit too long. I'll have some chamomile or some shit. I'm just not feeling as much into it today, unless there's like some major news. I'll make an extra video or something, but I'm basically going to conk out for the afternoon. One last super chat. Spider Eternal, do you have a favorite crypto wallet? Clankety. Well, I won't answer that because then I would be telling you what wallet I use. I probably shouldn't make that public. Just like you should never show off the gun that you'd use for home defense. I'll show you my collection sometime, but there will always be one that's left out of the video. Unless you're like the Demolition or something. If you got 1,000 guns, you don't have to worry about people stealing them really because, number one, they'd be fucking shitting themselves. And number two, how would you cart them all off? Be a little bit difficult. Imagine somebody breaks into his goddamn bunker and they take one gun and he doesn't even notice it for like 5 months. So many. They put a fake gun in its place. He goes to do a video and it's actually like a BB gun has been mounted there or something like that. It'd be weird. That's about all. Peace out.